Alright, hello everybody and welcome on back to some Friday Musings. I think I'm going to switch over. I think I might actually do either Bloodborne or Elden Ring. I'm at kind of a pinch point with Dark Souls where there's a couple of things, but I don't know, I'm kind of want to take a break from it real quick and cycle back. I realized Bloodborne, I still haven't played like these two areas hardly at all. I think I've done it once through everything, but I mean, just barely. And the Unseen Village, I think, is where I left off. So I need to kind of finish making my way through there, and then after that, I believe I get into like the Nightmare of Mensis and all that. But we were talking here. I wanted to kind of wrap up a little bit more of the sciences. Start talking about geology. That's wait, oops, my favorite of the sciences. But these are all kind of like more mental and more like human related. Like sociology is the study of people as groups, like, why people get into biker gangs or why police pull over red cars, like, just kind of like the current norms and trends, or like child soldiers in Africa. Not all of Africa, mind you. That's like saying all of Americas, like which one, north, central, and south. So, because Africa is a huge continent made up of a lot of countries, which have very different. I mean, one, was it South Africa still has like apartheid, which I didn't realize that was a term for kind of like segregation, is what we knew it by here, and we'd have like different water fountains for dark-skinned people and light-skinned people, and that's putting it mildly. It was African Americans and yeah, which would be hard to enforce now because so many people have blended into different cultures and heritages and married into different groups and both social and biological and what is that, ancestral? I don't know. But and that's the other thing too, like doing those ancestry kits. Aside from if you've ever like committed a murder or something, or if your DNA was at like a crime scene, then you might get a call after doing one of those ancestry kits. But either way, and yeah, my DNA is already with the government, so um, yeah, the sciences, so psychology, what goes on in the individual, the self, like the single person's brain. Sociology, what does society dictate on how a person acts? Still could be the individual, like the police officer pulling over a red car versus a blue car, and they might be going the same speed, but the red, just like with a bull, like it entices, like it's like an exciting, and also like kind of causes a little adrenaline to go, and especially in a position where you're looking for people trying that are going too fast or too dangerous or whatever, you see something like that, you're likely more likely to try to pull over a red car than any other kind of car. Now that's just understanding that, and as I say that, law enforcement is getting that training too. So this was based on a guy talking about being a state trooper back in like the 70s or 80s. So it might not really be relevant now. Now it might be more like the low key cars or this car or this type of car. Like, there's reasons for everything. Best just not to break the law. I mean, and that's easier said than done in Colorado because we've got some pretty common sense laws with just about everything. So, all right, then yeah, psychology is the self. Anthropology is the study of a society, but a society that is not quite kept up with modern technology. And with that, modern society too, because like anthropology, I studied. I mean, saying that though, is still India with the Hedras. Like that wasn't. India is actually right up there with us technology-wise. I mean, it is a little poorer looking on average, but at the same time, there's pockets of it down in Denver. There's pockets in Oregon, like Portland, especially with like shanty towns popping up of homeless people. Same with San Francisco. But a lot of that's because of the housing market was artificially inflated by flippers and investment people. So, anyways, geology. No, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? Well, I guess biology. I mean, if we're studying people to understand, because a lot of this is, well, we'll do that, and then kind of ties into all of it. Let's put this under psychology as like just a second layer. Um, Cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is actually mostly behavioral and human factor. It both ways too. I started to talk about it as the how do people cybersecurity. Yeah, that's it. So cybersecurity is actually more of a psychological and behavioral approach to defending and attacking. So social engineering, like people gaining vulnerabilities, manipulating people's goodwill and being like, "Oh, I want to help out my fellow human. Yeah, I'll help you with some information or whatever." Let's see, computer science, which I think is also very important, and it's actually part of standardized curriculum in Colorado public schools now. It's awesome. I think, like when I was in high school back in around Y2K, no, I'm just kidding, the early 2000s, um, it was more of an elective. You could take computer science. I learned C++ programming. I learned Adobe Photoshop. I learned, what else? General computer applications. We started doing macros, which I didn't really understand those, but it was like programming a short little program only using Microsoft Excel where it would like go and do these things. And now like actually like in my professional life, especially when I was working as a software developer for that, brief stint, like a year, I did a lot of VLOOKUP stuff and like Excel stuff, working with big database dumps, basically, uh, records and whatnot. Let's see, computer science, but thinking of like scalable solutions to deal with many, many, many data points or nodes or instances of something, and being able to keep track of all that and do big data and like computations with it. You tend to learn how to problem solve on a scale that would fix, and then you start to do that with everyday problems, and you'll find that, rather than just keep putting duct tape on something that's falling off of something, you actually like take a look at it, clean it out, fix it, or try to, and then if not, replace it. I mean, starting to think about that Daft Punk song, like that "Fix It, Break It, Turn It" or whatever. Technologic. There you go. Um, and history too, like understanding what people have done in the past, and then kind of getting like a brief glimpse. And actually, art history is kind of a lot like that too. And I took that a few times. Well, I've taken a few different art classes, but specifically Intro to Visual Art, I took that twice. Yeah, it was like a repeat delete I did. Failed it the first time, got an A the second time in a summer class. But basically, learned everything from like, well, Egyptian art structures, arches, lintels, posts and lintels, Greek architecture, of course. Oh, and then we got into Western Civ too. So we've got all these. Let's see, psychology, all that. I mean, should we kind of do? Yeah, yeah. Political science. Now, political science I'm not nearly as familiar with as even the other stuff. Political science. I took like two government classes. Didn't do too well in them. Didn't really pay attention. Um, I mean, I think I got more out of the Schoolhouse Rocks, the bill on Capitol Hill, and like, and then just like what we learned about in like elementary school about how laws are made. Well, I guess this also entails like our government, a democratic republic, and people get tripped up on those terms. And honestly, I don't even like. It's just so annoying. Like democracy at its core is supposed to be like government of the people, for the people, by the people, and to where they're involved, they get an equal vote. And I'm arguing with this guy on the Facebooks about how women should even vote. It's ridiculous. Like, and then black people only getting 3/5 of a vote. Like last episode, we were talking about kind of some of America's skeletons in the closet. That's some of it. Like we made it to where African Americans, or basically people that were slaves, either yeah, at the time, because this was before the Civil War. It was like the people in the North, I want to say, were worth like 3/5 of a vote, and then people in the South like just weren't worth a vote at all. They were property, and then, or maybe that's where the 3/5 came in, and maybe when you got to the North, you were able to vote. Okay, actually, I could be very wrong. Let's see. Let's look that up. Let's look it up. Let's take the time. I hope I don't get another like strike for misinformation. I'm not monetized or anything, nor do I care to like anytime soon. I do this because it's working on my own career of cybersecurity, going into behavioral and psychological so and so. Because you want to disarm them in a way that's agreeable to them too. And I mean them as in anyone, literally. So anyone can be a hacktivist or a state-sponsored actor or something, any level of nefarious at any given time. Sometimes not even know about it. Let's see. What were we looking about? 3/5 clause. Three-Fifth Compromise. Okay. The Three-Fifths Compromise was an agreement reached during the 1787 United States Constitutional Convention over the inclusion of slaves in a state's total population. This count would determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives, the number of electoral votes each state would be allocated, and how much money the states would pay in taxes. Slave-holding states wanted their entire population to be counted to determine the number of representatives those states could elect and send to Congress. Free states wanted to exclude the counting of slave populations in slave states, since those slaves had no voting rights. A compromise was struck to resolve this impasse or whatever. The compromise counted three-fifths of each state's slave population toward that state's total population for the purpose of apportioning the House of Representatives, effectively giving the southern states more power in the House relative to the northern states. It also gave slaveholders similarly enlarged powers in southern legislatures. This was an issue in the secession of West Virginia from Virginia in 1863. Okay, so, jeez, and I'm talking about history and everything. So history, yeah, I did history one and history two basically, like a brief overview of all history up until I want to say around the Civil War, like that kind of era, and then everything from the Civil War to current times. So, and even then, again, I think I learned more about the 80s and Reagan years from American Made than anything else. What was I putting here? We got political science, Western Civ. That's more the study of Greek and Roman um, civilizations, Western Civ. And something I should get into is like Eastern civilization. There you go, Western civilization, which I did have that class in high school before I went to college, while I was finishing up my senior year of high school. And it was great. I learned about like the Parthenon, the Acropolis, the Etruscans. So those first two were buildings. The Etruscans were a type of people. Um, the Olympics came from Greece. I want to say, see again, I'd have to look all the stuff up. Troy, like the Trojan horse and everything, which kind of overlaps with cybersecurity because it's the same concept. It's taking something that appears like a gift, or young Sheldon actually has an episode where gets a pirated video game and it has a virus, and then it's all bad and everything. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it's basically the same idea of a Trojan computer thing. Although that could be anything, but a Trojan is like a normal. Well, actually, no, that is exactly what a Trojan is. It's a virus or malware that piggybacks on some desired program or application that the user knowingly downloads or installs, but is not aware of the malicious software. It is doing something, and by malicious, that doesn't mean it has to be stealing like a specific thing. It's just gaining unauthorized access to a system, and it's illegal. So, and that's, yeah, it's going to be squashed out pretty soon with all the new, let's say, statistics. That's sorry, I'm trying to think of like the most important. I feel like everybody should have a pretty firm understanding of statistics. Now that's more probability, chances of stuff like ratios, the bell curve, or standard deviation and the bell curve of it, and just understanding how likely something is. Because if you hear some kind of scare tactics or some rhetoric, especially as we near election time, you're gonna need a frame of reference. And I love it. Rick and Morty has this scene where he's talking about. He's like, I don't know, is that a lot? Is that little? I don't know. A lot. Oh, it's the Schmeckles of the Dungeons and Dragons episode, which is hilarious. They go on an adventure and, anyways, but like he's like 50 Schmeckles or something. I don't know. He says that some number of some currency, and that's so true. Because I mean, when I went to Costa Rica again for a high school trip, I mean, Buena Vista High School did a lot of stuff. Like I was learning statistics, Western Civ, going to another country, like learning Spanish for 4 years. Like puedo hablar español, sí, pero no bueno, más o menos a veces. Anyways, where was it going with all that? Oh yeah, it's 20,000 colones is like $10, I think. I'm pretty sure that was the conversion. So when you're sitting there thinking like, okay, what's something normally costs you $10? Like, God, 20,000? Like that's the price of like, well, my first car was only 5 grand. That's like 4 cars. I'm like, oh no, it's really like pennies and stuff. And you get a coin that's like 5,000. Like, oh wait, what? And even that, like, so you have to drop the 3 zeros and divide it by 2. So 20,000 is like $10, if that's true. I'm pretty sure it's either that or 10,000 for 20 bucks, but 20,000, I feel like I got that stuck in my head. Anyways, it's nuts. And now almost everywhere accepts credit cards, and the credit card companies actually make the conversion rates and stuff like that, and it's really easy to travel to most countries. So, um, anthropology, psychology, math. Math is one of the big ones. Oops, wrong side. This goes here. So, math. There you go. We could talk a lot about math, just not calculus. I didn't do so hot in that. Um, did I do geology yet? I got some ologies going. Let's see, Western Civ, statistics, biology, anthropology, history, computer science, math, psychology, cybersecurity, sociology, learn computer science. This is more my education history, like teaching, and then this will be geology. My favorite. Oops, no. We're gonna type it up all in one, so it stores in there. Geology. I mean, not that it's not in there. It's just that the fact that I used it is in there, which means that it's gonna go into my like a different group of used words, and then even that gets slowly replaced by the more frequently used words. But and PlayStation is awesome about all this. The coding in it has it to where the predictive text pulls up like whatever I wrote previously, and then the amount of like how frequent I've used it is where it sits at those like let's see these top words. So we already got geology now. Anyways, whew, that's all. Okay, we're at like 17 minutes. I'm trying to think of what like we could keep talking about one of these like really English. Let's go ahead and put English up here too, because this is really important. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what are the best ways to teach someone English, both for incoming immigrants, specifically from Central and South America? How can they learn the language and like as easy and efficiently as possible? Um, but then also, let's do that, and then Spanish, right next to it, because for the people that want to go and work and live down in Central and South America, like as we continue to develop Spanish. Okay. Like I want to brush up on my Spanish and kind of learn. Like I was horrible at conjugating verbs, future and past tense. Like but as far as getting and vocabulary could be a lot better too. So, anyways, and yeah, we got hanging signs, which are gonna be fun eventually. What we could do is like, I just want a hanging sign up there. Like the possibilities for this. Like you'd have that and then a couple there. Let's see what all three would look like. Oh, oh, what? Oh, okay. Oh, whoa, whoa. You can turn it different ways? Oh, that is cool. Okay. I'm just gonna leave those up there for now. We can get some supplies and stuff, but yeah, eventually, maybe we'll break off. I want to do like once I get all of this actually like filled in, get the books and stuff. Basically, do like a quick summary, 5-minute video, walk through each subject, show it on the display it on the screen, and that way, within that 5-minute video or something really short, then people could pause the video, see like the pages, and then like look up Google Translate or whatever, like type it in there. That's why English would have to be like at least one of the early ones, if not links to some kind of English learning service or program. But yeah, let's get some supplies. I don't have enough jungle saplings for that, so yeah, let's go ahead and keep try to see what I remember of the sciences. So like psychology, we talked about the specifics, like the medulla oblongata and like the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex a little bit. That was also well, let's see. So the prefrontal cortex is your decision maker, and it's based on your experiences, and it's not usually fully developed until your mid to late 20s. And that's why I think, um, like car rental companies, the price, well, they won't even rent to you if you're under 25. You have to be 25 or older to rent a car, and then you have to be 21 or older to drink in America. Even though we have legal weed in most places, there's only a couple of states like Idaho and I forget where else that don't even have it for medicinal. And like a lot of more places are having it for recreational, meaning they literally don't care. You can smoke just as much as you can drink. Now, keep it within reason, and same with drinking. And if anything, it's helping to reduce drinking. But anyways, I digress. But knowing uh, the way that chemicals act in the brain too, like dopamine and like the feel-good chemicals that get released during substance use, and then how they act on somebody, and then addiction too. That's one that gotta be very careful. But then like things like gambling, which you can definitely form an addiction to. It's not a substance. It's more of a thrill, a rush, or like like shoplifting or something, or like breaking the law, but at the same time, oof, like being bad, being naughty or whatever. I mean, it can be appealing until people know better. Then it's like, oh, so. Of course, that's the same with like other natural urges and stuff that are actually pretty good. Like you have like reward chemicals in your brain released when you answer the call to nature. Like your body's like, ah, yes, good. Thinking about Better Call Saul with the toilet. Oh yes, Chandler, there you go. And he's like, have fun with your messed up toilet. Like I won't go too into it or spoilers too much or anything, but it's hilarious. Check it out. So, and that would be cool if Netflix started paying me. Like, man, you talk about our shows a lot, or the shows on here a lot. They probably look at my history and they're like, oh god, like all he does is watch Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad on a loop. I'm on my a new run, and I'll just play it while playing video games, like have it going on in the background. So let's actually get some trees going in here. I mean, it's not gonna hurt anything. All right, and then I think yeah, I can see it. Oh, I can see it from here. Do I have sand? Yes. Oops. Okay. Can't fly. But yeah, that looks just like there's too much of a grouping. There we go. There we go. So yeah, gambling. And if you had a firm understanding of statistics, you'd have a lot less likely chance that you would gamble. Just because you would know the odds of winning are so small that it doesn't seem as appealing to you. Whereas, just when you see people winning and getting cash out and all this, all it takes is seeing a couple people and even the dinging for, say, someone wins 10 bucks in pennies or quarters or whatever. Like, that's not really all that much money, but it looks like a lot coming flowing out of a slot machine. And all they did is put in like one quarter and they get like 10,000 quarters. So, all right, cool. Or maybe not that much, like maybe like 20 quarters or 30 quarters, or and all it takes is like, and you don't really know, like, at a moment's notice, while your brain's trying to form this information into a decision, like, should I invest, this amount of money into this chance or this opportunity to win money? Like, how viable is this? Like, is this a good investment? And same with stock trading and stuff too. Like, The Wolf of Wall Street was a horrible movie. I mean, it was good, it was hilarious, but it was also, I mean, if you weren't mad, like steaming mad after watching it, there's something wrong with you. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. It's Stockholm Syndrome, which I believe, I don't know, I was pretty wrong about the three-fifths clause, but, maybe let's look up Stockholm Syndrome. All right. as we're going through all this. I mean, and with any of these, like you should want to look up some of these topics. Get into geology, biology, sociology, anthropology, all the ologies. Stockholm. Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome is a theory that describes a psychological bond that can develop between victims and their captors in situations like kidnappings, hostage taking, and abusive relationships. It's thought to be an automatic unconscious response to trauma and can be a defense mechanism of the ego under stress. So kind of like uh, Always Sunny in Philadelphia does a really good job of kind of showing it when the gang gets taken over by um, that family. What's their name? Oh well. Anyways, this family that drinks a lot of milk. And they come in like literally with like guns ablazing and stuff, and like they're heavily armed, and they take over Patty's pub. And then I forget who it was, but I think it might even be all of them at some point. But one, maybe it was D, especially like was like, hey, I can help you. Like, let me help you catch the others, or um, and actually, explaining it that way, that could almost be, like any kind of sniveling coward that, like a Monty Burns' Seymour, not Seymour Skinner, what's his name? Smithers. Smithers, go get this and that, Smithers, and all that. Like, um, he kind of likes Monty Burns because he's in the in crowd. Like, he's, his second in command, like, pretty well off. Doesn't have to worry about a career and stuff, but also has to do a bunch of seedy stuff. Very abusive. I mean, because someone like that rose to the top and is abusive to their employees is probably going to be just as abusive to, maybe not just as, but still abusive to his second in command. In fact, we know all this. Like, he rips on him for being gay and all this, and actually, I don't even know how. I think it comes out that like Smithers comes out, but Smithers is kind of Stockholm syndrome. Like, he's happy when Burns is happy, and he's sad when Burns is sad, and he's scared out of his mind when Burns is enraged, and Anyways, Stockholm syndrome. There you go. Also, bootlicking is a term. I don't think that's an actual official psychological term. However, subservience and the comfort of serving, thinking that you can trust someone, or like they're they're the right ones for the job. They're the leaders, the leadership. So again, as we go into an election season, which I'll be glad when it's over. Really hope one doesn't win. The other one, yeah. But at the same time, like I said, Colorado is a pretty forward-thinking state. I am a little nervous about what could be done, but it's kind of, if it goes Republican, then it's kind of more dissolving federal government into state-run governments and such. But I really want to start taxing the wealthy. Like, they really need to start paying their fair share. Maybe not 70 to 90, but come on, bump it up to 50, 60. I mean, and see how it goes. Like, jeez, these people didn't get their extra dividends and stuff, and I don't know. Definitely not saying the other extreme either, like eat the rich. Like, nobody needs to be dying over stupid nonsense. I mean, it's all material stuff anyway, and like everybody, including the people at the top, they get enjoyment out of seeing like other people enjoy life. It's just a natural phenomenon. Like, we love to see other people succeed, and so that's why it's so dangerous, like racism and dehumanization. Because once you start dehumanizing someone and seeing them as uh, less than human, like that's why I get so mad when people talk about like the litter box in the classroom thing. Like, kids are trying to identify as cats, and I get it. Furries, like there's that kind of everywhere, and that's more people. Well, without going too much into it, like one type is where people go to conventions and then they end up doing, I don't know. And then kids, like there's that gray line of like, are they going to these things? And that's kind of dangerous, actually, as I say that. And Always Sunny in Philadelphia goes into that too. Like, always look at an ID if you're unsure. Like, if you think the person you're about to do something with is underage, you better check some ID. So, and Always Sunny has an episode like that where I think he does exactly that. He's like, "Wait, can I see your driver's license?" And he's like, "All right." And even as sleazy as he is, he's like, "Dang it! All right, have a good night." I mean, because he's totally about to do something, ridiculous with this girl, basically, this underage um, young woman, whatever, young adult, but not legal adult. And even, yeah, he says, nope, can't do it. I want to say that was Dennis, and Dennis is like the sleazeball that like he wrote these guides or these tips of like trapping women and being like mentally abusive and emotionally abusive to like, but just a little bit, a little bit's okay as long as you tease them and you get them into. And it's like, no, not if it's not consensual and not if they didn't understand what's going on going in. I don't know. That's a whole nother can of worms. We don't really need to get into that. I'm just thinking like relationship stuff and communication. Communication is important. Being able to explain and describe and talk with each other is key. All right. Well, I think we're going to switch over to some Bloodborne because I want to get into the. I forget. It's something of Mensis. And it's really cool, and it's got like dudes with cages on their heads and like some creepy like medieval looking stuff. So, anyways, ta-ta for now. If you're sticking to this playlist, that's fine. I'll see you in the next musing, and maybe I'll have some lapis and fill in that. I also want to put some emerald blocks. Like I'm thinking about doing that down there, just like having like a maybe even like a snake pattern. Have to finish up the walkway. Yeah. So we got plenty of diorite. That's good. So ta-ta for now, and I will see you in the next one.